Welcome, friends, fiends, and familiars, to the Comic Fiends Comic Friends. This week, I've got my comic friend, Karilynne. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh dear.
Finally. All right,
This is
so
long time coming.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah.
So I met you through some voice acting projects that I was getting involved with when I was like really auditioning for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you came in, you did good. I cast you, so I'm your boss.
you are my boss. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, we were working on Kairos,
Yeah.
which is still ongoing. It'll never... It's going forever.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. Serialization it's a real thing.
It really
Right?
is. Yeah, but you came in, you play the main best friend of the main character, Grant. That's the only person I can hear whenever I hear you talk now.
You know, it's an odd thing, just to be a little bit meta here. My co-host on the other podcast that I'm running right now, his name is Grant.
Oh no.
So it's like when you say that, that's what I think of first. Just
Yeah.
So it's odd.
Yeah.
But
it's good.
Yeah.
That's
Kairos
fun.
is super cool. We have, was it three episodes out?
3 episodes. The 4th one is recorded and should be out pretty soon.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's very comic book-esque.
It's true. Yeah.
All superhero based. It's kind of a love letter to like superhero comic books and old-timey radio play at the same time, which is an odd combination.
I love it. Sound effects really bring it home for me.
Oh yeah, I have like no part in that. I am not skilled. That's all Dylan and James and their amazing wizardry. I just tell people to talk different.
I know it's not really, it's just relevant to this, but like, do they produce the sound effects?
Some of them, like if you hear like walking around or cars opening and closing or something like that, sometimes we'll like go out and record it, or we'll get someone to stand in the booth and like turn a rubber glove inside out, something like that. But a lot of them, I think they have like libraries that they go out of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, do they, is it 100% production? But that's fine.
I wish. Cool. Although they probably don't wish.
No, I don't know. I think that's something to be proud of. But all right, okay. To bring things back here.
Yeah.
So, this is comics focused. What kind of comics do you read? Like, what kind of stuff are you into?
I kind of a weird little plethora. I'd say I'm mostly into manga. I think I've always kind of been like, the anime nerd. So growing up, I read a lot of manga, but I definitely branch out here and there to some other Western stuff, usually more in the horror domain.
Oh.
Which is kind of weird. I feel like I like either cutesy anime stuff or I'm like death and destruction.
I feel like I'm going to get some great recommendations today.
I mean, maybe.
That's cool.
It's really odd. But yeah, and like even in manga, I definitely go towards horror quite a bit. But I also read like Azumanga Daioh, which is like the furthest thing. But I feel
there's
like
a bit of horror in there, right?
I mean, nobody understands Chio-chan's father.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know. But yeah, like I mean, like I read that and then I'll read like Battle Royale, which like the manga is so good. It's horrifying.
Good. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that.
Have you not read it?
Oh no, I was thinking about it recently. I was doing laundry and I just imagined one of the scenes and I was like, yeah, that was pretty bad. Like that was pretty rough.
Yeah, I read it when I was like 15 and I was like, I shouldn't be reading that.
I was at least 18, my goodness.
No, I just was like scarring myself slowly as I was going through it. Like I don't need a soul. This is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that kind of thing, I think and then like intellectual stuff, like I guess Death Note still kind of falls into the realm of horror, or like Parasite, which yeah, I read Parasite before it was cool. It became an anime.
No, I feel ya.
Yeah.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah,
too.
It's good.
I was like, and I still haven't seen the anime. I hear it's good. I know it's good.
Yeah, I've only seen like 3 or 4 episodes, and then I was like, this is exactly what I read. I don't even watch this. Like,
nah, it's not set in the 90s. That's a big difference. They have cell phones.
I just wanted to hear Migi's voice.
Oh, yeah.
Because
yeah.
like I had this exact image of what Migi's voice would be when I read the manga, and then I was completely affirmed. I watched the anime, and he was all like, I'm so cute. And I was like, yes, Migi,
That
you're
sounds
terrifying.
right. Ugh, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, that kind of thing. In the Western vein, I mostly read... It's kind of weird. I mostly read things that I watch, and I feel like if I watch something and I like it and I want to get more detail out of it, I go search out the comics. So, like, Walking Dead, I read. Usually after I've watched an episode that kind of pertains to it, which is a really odd way of doing it. I don't think I know anybody else who does it like that.
It's kind of backwards, isn't it?
I know. Most people are like, read the comic and then watch the thing and then be thoroughly disappointed by the thing. But I'm like, I'll watch the show and then read the manga and then be... Not the manga. I keep saying that now.
You massive weeb.
Like, staring over at my bookshelf, and I've like got like happy little Parasite all displayed there, so it's just in my head. Yeah, no, so I'll like read the comic after and then I'll be blown away by it. So everything's a happy little...
Yeah, you're maximizing your entertainment value there, I think.
Yeah, which is good. And then it's kind of cool because then you get more details, of course, from the books.
Oh, yeah, it's like a supplementary thing then.
Yeah. So I tend to go in and do that a lot with Walking Dead. The most I do it a bit with... Do you know the Dresden Files?
I've heard of it.
Okay, you should be reading it.
Oh, should I? All right.
The Dresden Files, I actually read the novels, and then there's comics as well.
Okay.
I tend to read the novels and then I read the comics, but you should read it. It's amazing. It's about a modern day wizard living in Chicago trying to like be a private investigator.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. Cool. That sounds pretty cool. Oh
it's
boy. All right. Okay.
So kind of a weird, I don't know. It's kind of a weird,
eclectic.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. But it's
okay. Well, I guess then when did you how did you start reading comics? Like where did this begin for you? Do you know?
Yeah, I actually remember very, very vividly because it's an interesting story.
Is it?
It is. I mean, it's probably very different from most people's. Most people are like, my cousin had this book and it had Batman on it. But I mean, growing up, I mean, even still today, I have a pretty severe learning disability. In that I struggle a lot with reading and mathematics, which probably isn't that abnormal nowadays, but I had it pretty badly. Like, I couldn't read books at like 9 years old.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't, and it was awful. And I remember I would always be in the car and like on like 3-hour drives to grandma's house, and my sister would have like an Archie comic, and I'd be sitting there like, I'm bored because I couldn't read anything. And this was before like Game Boys were backlit. So I was just sitting there like bored out of my mind. So I kind of had a hate relationship with comics for a long time because my sister would always be reading Archie comics or Garfield or something, and I couldn't because I just couldn't read. It was very, very odd.
That's tough.
So yeah, so I did a lot of like weird tutoring and stuff like that, and slowly kind of got better at reading. But of course, when you're learning how to read in that kind of situation, you're very much tested on just chunks of text. It's not a comic thing that nobody even thinks about that. But I very clearly remember one day I was in a comic store with my mom, and I was probably like 9, 10 years old, maybe 8. And we were there because we were picking up a book for my sister. And then I saw a volume of Inuyasha on the shelf.
Oh boy.
Hilarious. And I watched Inuyasha at home because this was back when it was first coming out and everything. And so I knew the characters, so I picked it up and I just started looking through it, and I was like, oh, pretty pictures. And then I realized I could read it. And I turned to my mom and I said, Mom, I can read this. And like the look she gave me was just, oh my God, I found the thing that my daughter is going to be able to read. And she like picked up every volume and bought it.
Wow.
Which is probably every kid's dream. Like, I just got all of these comic books. But it was because it was finally something that I would read out of enjoyment, so I would actually want to practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my first experience with actually reading comics. And I mean, I want to say I blasted through them, but I was still a slow reader, so I went through them like one a month. And they're just like regular manga. But it was like, it was amazing. And I think part of it was having the context of the dialogue as well, but in image form. I wasn't sitting there having to read, like, he came through the door and his expression looked like this. I could see him coming through the door and his expression looked like this, and he was saying, hey, how's it going? Or something.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's
That's
it going?
Inuyasha.
I'm Inuyasha. I'm
Hey,
coming to save you. I don't know. But yeah.
I want to do like a quick drawing of this now. Just Kagome's in the room. Hey, how's it going?
I mean, there was a scene when he like burst into a room and she was like naked in a bath. He could have said that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is Inuyasha, yeah.
Yeah, that's all the what's it called? Fan service. You never get away with that with manga.
Mm-hmm.
There. But yeah, that was kind of how I got into it, and then from there, of course, my mom was like, well, this is a thing, like, we're gonna get you to read all of these Japanese things, and I was like, sweet.
Yeah, wait a sec, and it's manga too, so, like, it's right to left, right?
Yeah,
right? They weren't flipped, so...
I was literally like a backwards child.
Like, that's... Oh, wow.
And it ended up getting really funny, because manga is, of course, not cheap at all.
No.
So, like, my mom's getting all excited, and then she's slowly realizing that, like, we need to, like, have a limit. Because I started getting faster at reading these things, which was amazing. Like, 7 years of tutoring didn't do what manga did for me.
Manga's gonna change the world.
I know!
Manga's gonna change the world. It's gonna get kids reading.
Yeah.
And then... Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah,
so I just started whipping through these things. So eventually my mom's like, you can only have one every 2 weeks. And I was like, what am I going to read now?
I've got all these
novels sitting on like the family shelf. And I was just like, I can't read those.
Forget it. Forget about it.
That's not a manga. Like, what even? Yeah. And then, of course, I went through like the phase of like shoujo wonderfulness. And slowly upped my reading level more and more. And then I was reading Death Note. And I was like, this is actually some interesting stuff. And then I slowly from there I got into novels and stuff. So it was really like a oddly important stepping stone in my like development.
Yeah. Honestly, this is the most inspirational. How did you start for this show? So I'm happy to have this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's fantastic. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it showed me, especially now, because now I'm finishing up a psychology degree, that like really even like you have to look for things from different angles, like constantly getting me to try to read novels or like paragraphs from short stories or whatever. It didn't work. But the second I came up with something that just worked from a different angle and also that was something that I enjoyed more, it helps a lot. So I think it was a very interesting thing, and I don't think I realized how interesting it was at the time. At the time, I was just like, "Oh, pretty pictures." Like,
yeah,
this is cool. He's a dog. Yeah,
a pretty dog.
Yeah.
What? For horror, did that start with comics, or did you start with movies and then go looking for you're like, oh, there are gonna be comics like this maybe, or what was the route on that, do you know?
I think it was probably a combination. I think I've always been fascinated with horror, much to my own dismay, because I get scared really easily. And I've always been really interested specifically in Asian horror. I think it's done very differently. It's more about the environment than it is just about like jump scares and stuff like it is in more westernized horror. So like I was really into, I think it's pronounced Higurashi no Nakokoro ni. Do you know that one?
No.
I think
you blasted by me with that title, so
I've had to explain this to many people, so I got good at saying it. I think the English title is called When They Cry.
Oh no, I haven't heard this.
That one? It's like it tricks you because it starts off and it's like this cutesy little shoujo show about these like 4 girls who live in this village, and this guy comes in, and you think it's gonna be this like, you know, shoujo little harem anime thing about this little village, but then it turns out they're all murderous crazy people.
Okay.
And it's like very intense and incredibly graphic. So, and it was quite popular at the time. So that I read and was interested and then kind of fascinated by. So I think I kind of started searching out more along more along the lines of Asian horror after that. But I mean, when I was a kid, I like watched horror movies and stuff.
I see.
I mean, my name is Carrie. I'm not allowed to not.
That's true. You're right.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, but I think I got really fascinated, especially when it came to Japanese comics that were more horror, like Parasite or like Battle Royale or like some of the stuff from Berserk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Berserk is great. You gotta take it slow, though. Slowly go crazy reading that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a reread of it pretty recently. I'm gonna say maybe last fall? Or the fall before that. Yeah. Oh, boy.
It's intense.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's good, though. I mean...
It's so good. Yeah.
But you have to kind of be in the right place.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Really. I think the way they handle certain situations in that, I think the gravity of it is contained. So it's like, or is present, you know? Like there's some real consequences.
Yeah, because like it feels like there's like you never feel like they're going to not have a way out. And then they suddenly don't have a way out and everything goes to shit. But yeah, no, I think I feel like a lot of the times with I guess more Eastern Asian, I never know. Especially Japanese, like consequences are a lot more final. I think.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Like I think the kind of trope of oh my god, everybody's dead, but there's a way to bring them back, so it's okay. Like apart from Dragon Ball Z, that's not so much a thing in like especially Japanese comics, but it's definitely a thing in Western.
Yeah, that's a problem with serialization, I think, right?
Yeah.
When you have long-running stuff and then you have really big things that represent the ideals of a brand, it's kind of hard to dismiss it so easily, right?
I think like DC is kind of notorious for it.
They're all pretty bad about it, honestly.
It's not. I've always been more of a DC than a Marvel, which is probably like a sin to say.
No, not at all. Not at all. Are you kidding me? There's a lot of options for people these days.
It's true. But yeah, I think especially, so like going back to why I like horror so much, especially in comic books, I think that this is probably weird and like morbid to say, but it's so much more graphic. Like in watching like a movie or something, there's always kind of like the quick pan away after you see like the dead body for 2 seconds, or there's like the weird shadow that's going over the injury, or you know, the whole point of it is that you don't see the monster. But if you're reading a comic book and somebody gets, well, I mean, if you're taking Battle Royale, for instance, if somebody gets shot in the face, as does happen, you sit there and you stare at that panel where that is happening until you're done the page and can turn the page. Like, you're forced to have such an intimate relationship with the actual carnage.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, you're going to get an anatomy lesson that you didn't know you were getting.
Also, that's interesting, though, because it's so, I mean, especially with that and with Parasite, it is anatomically very correct. So it's like, this is cool. I didn't realize if you broke the arm like that, that would happen. Which is incredibly horrible. And I'm always like, is there something wrong with me?
Well, as long as you're aware of it, you're probably fine, right?
I guess. I'm like, am I like a psychopath that I find this interesting? But no, I mean, I think that's interesting having to, like, face it like that, and just being allowed to, like, you're not if you want to see the monster, you don't have to awkwardly go back 5 frames and pause it and then it's kind of blurry. You can just sit there and stare at the monster and be like, this is going to be ingrained in my brain and I'm never going to sleep again, but it's cool looking.
yeah
you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely drawn to that horror aesthetic. Like I like kind of that like weird kind of gruesome stuff that you get out of it, right?
Yeah It's interesting, and I've caught myself, like, when I say that I like to kind of supplement other media with comic books, I've definitely found myself being kind of weird like that, and like having like a really intense scene happen in like The Walking Dead and being like, I wonder if that looked more awful in the comic book. I should go look.
The answer is probably yes.
It's always yes.
Yep.
The show, there's like a blast. And then it's like, the comic, there's like tendons flying everywhere, and you're like, jeez.
Yep. Yeah, I had to drop The Walking Dead after a certain point.
That's
like I couldn't
totally
keep
fair.
going. The comic anyway. I watched some of the show. I didn't really follow it like really like all the way through. But like after let's say issue number 100.
Yeah, it's so long. I don't know.
But
yeah.
Just issue, that really big let's say that smash, that home run.
Yes.
Home run
yes.
Chapter issue.
It was
really knocked it out of the park for me, and I couldn't
yeah, that was hard to read and watch.
Really hit the nail on the head there with that one, I think.
I'm trying to think of jokes that I can make that aren't incredible spoilers.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, it's kind of late at this point. I think most folks know what's going on.
It is, but it's not. I have a weird relationship with spoilers in that
is that right?
I am a forever don't spoil person.
That's good.
It is, but it gets me in a lot of trouble. Because, like, I'm the kind of person who, like, and this is breaking my, like, law in saying this, but I'm the kind of person who's like, don't say Snape kills Dumbledore. Because, like, our kids are not going to know, and then they're going to get spoiled.
I think you just said something about Dumbledore getting sick from a grape. Is that
probably,
right?
Yeah.
Grape ills Dumbledore? Is that what you said? I think that's what you said, right?
A little too much wine. There. And his, like, wandering around in his office.
Excellent.
But yeah, no, I'm not a spoilers person. It bothers me when people make even the slightest spoiler, which is a problem when you're watching, like, The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, because Facebook becomes a minefield.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I think I keep up with The Walking Dead more in comic books, because I'm like, if I've already spoiled it, it's not spoiled. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I generally like, concurrent discussion of ongoing things. So then, I have a bunch of like threads bookmarked on forums and stuff that I just can't touch right now because I'm not caught up on some things.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get... Will I be able to read any of it?
It eventually just becomes memed, and then you're like, there's nothing you can do. Yeah, there was, like, the certain head-smashing thing that happened in Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You're not getting around that now if you're starting the series now.
No, not at all.
But, yeah, but it's kind of weird, because I feel like I break that rule now more, because I'd rather find out from, like, reading 3 chapters ahead in a book than from, like, scrolling on Twitter and being like, oh, I guess that character who I love dies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I recently I was trying to look up a picture of something because I was like, what's this guy's name or whatever? Then, and Google auto-completed something.
Oh,
like,
no!
That character's name's Death. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't even know. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen. So now, it's like, it's not a short series. So now I'm just going to be thinking about, is this it? Is this when it's going to happen?
I've done that before. Like, there's a show that I watch, well, Outlander, but a character like died, and then I went to like Google them because I was like, oh, I'd like to learn more about the actress or whatever. And then it was like them clearly alive later on. I was like, what the
Oh yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, internet.
But yeah, I've recently been reading a lot of or like reading forward a bit in Attack on Titan. Specifically because of that, because the anime is so far behind.
Yeah, right.
Like, incredibly far behind. Like, I didn't start reading it until a couple months ago because I realized how far ahead the manga was. Like, I got, like, a spoiler or something, and I was like, wait, that has to be, like, forever in advance.
Yeah.
Like, so much has to happen. Oh, my gosh. So I guess Attack on Titan counts as another vaguely horror thing that I'm into.
No, it's definitely, there are horror elements, strong horror elements within it, right?
It's like a gruesome action.
Yeah.
I guess would be a better description.
Yeah. Somebody had recommended it to me when I was really into getting into some zombie manga.
Oh, good.
And then they were like, yeah, it's kind of like a zombie manga, but they're like giants. And I was like, oh, that sounds crazy. So then but that was like a few years ago at this point, like before it blew up. Which is really hipster to say, I'm sorry. But
I said it with like, what did I say? With Parasite? Yeah.
No, we're just on the hipster track right now. That's what it is. So it's cool.
It's cool. Hipster is great.
Yeah, but then I think once the anime blew up, I just wasn't following it at that point, and I still haven't gone back. Like,
yeah, I like stumble in and out of it. I'm gonna be playing Misaka in the Abridged series, which should be released, I think, next month. Something, I don't know. I've recorded for it.
How exciting!
So I like had to get back into it because I was like, I should know more about this character if I'm gonna be playing her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it was like a completely different character take on the character, which was great. I think it's going to be really funny.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. You can't just have it do the same thing, right?
No, and I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, that kind of thing. That's kind of why I started rewatching the anime, and then of course I was like Googling things that I was confused about, and then I was like, oh, look at these spoilers. Oh, look at how far ahead the comic is. I should read this.
Wait, so you said you're going to be playing who? Mikasa?
Misaka? Wait, what's her name? Misaka? Musaka? Now I'm hungry.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Mikasa.
You're talking about the
girl.
Okay, got it. Right, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm clearly the biggest fan.
Oh, yeah, it's showing. Whoops. It's all right.
But yeah, no, yeah. I can't say anything about it because it's not out. But
So I feel like you ended up answering this question anyway, but that what you ended up liking about comics is that you sort of can get ahead of whatever material it is, or to use it not primarily as this, but to get it as like supplementary information for something you already like.
Yeah,
is that right?
I think for me, and this is kind of a weird academic way of putting it, but I think for me, comics are kind of like being able to like go more in depth and kind of study something that I already like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you can like sit with it, and it's not sitting with a paragraph that you're reading over and over again. It's sitting with an image that every time you look at it, if it's detailed enough, you'll find something else. So, and I mean, some comics, that is their entire point. I mean, have you ever read the Legend of Zelda comics?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh, they are so good. Like, so good. I didn't.
You might have to be specific because I think there's a few, right?
There are. I'm staring at them now because they're like happily displayed on my shelf. But specifically the Ocarina of Time volumes. There's two. Because there's the first volume is Young Link, and there's the second volume is Adult Link.
Right.
But it like the game, of course, you're running around, you're doing this all every now and then. There's like, oh, Link, this is why you're doing this, or like here's some text to show a character motivation. But in general, you kind of project your own, why am I fighting a dragon, onto the character you're playing, because he doesn't have any dialogue. He keeps his face very neutral, and in general, you're facing his back. So really, there is storyline, but not an incredible amount of character in the game, which, I mean, I might get crucified for saying that. But
you're trying to illustrate a point, so
yeah,
I think you're fine.
In the manga, of course, because it's a manga, it's about Link. You're facing his face all the time. He goes through journeys. He has dialogue. He has thoughts. There's this. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you.
It's Ocarina of Time.
I know, but it's the manga, and it's so good.
Okay, all right.
But there's in the manga, it ends up explaining to you why he has a very strong bond with one of the bosses from the game.
Oh,
and then he ends up having to kill the boss.
Oh,
later on, because of course that is the point of the game. Right. But it's so incredibly emotional. I remember reading it and like bawling my eyes out. And the next time I played the game, because it's one of my favorite games, I didn't want to kill the boss. Because I was thinking like, oh my god, like they were friends when they were kids. Like, it was insane. So I'd highly recommend reading them if you ever get the chance.
Okay.
But
yeah, I'm definitely interested. I tend to, I don't know. I have a weird sort of philosophy about certain things. Like if it's, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it, and maybe I will now, having had it recommended. But typically, if I stick with whatever the origin is of what
fair.
it. Like,
so we're like complete opposites.
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily. Like if it's this first, then I'll probably stick with that. Because then an adaptation, I don't know. Like my strongest example here would be, well, this is sort of relevant because you're gonna be playing this role soon. Shameless plug for you. But I was super duper, top 10, whatever. If I actually bother to make one of these 5x5 things, Gurren Lagann is in there for sure, 100%. And that's like to nobody's surprise because it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
But at some point they released manga for it, and I was like, oh, cool. And I picked it up, and I just I wasn't feeling the same kind of passion from it.
That's totally fair.
You know what I mean?
I've definitely had that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to dismiss it. It's probably fine. It's just I didn't feel like I needed to pursue that. But if you're telling me that this Zelda manga for Ocarina of Time is worth checking out, then
I promise it adds to the story so much.
All right.
Like, how he's wearing earrings all the way through?
Yeah, that wasn't just like a cool 2000s
No, there's a
thing?
reason. It's like a status symbol, and it's cool.
All right.
Very cool.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
All right.
But like that kind of that is probably like my quintessential example of how I like that comics can lend themselves to other things, because obviously like the game is always going to stand alone and be amazing.
Yeah.
But having that, and it's I don't know, it's just so good. And you can see that with so many different things, and also just like sometimes how like a show based off a comic will go off in a different direction, and you're kind of like, I don't want this. Like FullMetal Alchemist being the prime example.
Yeah.
Or at least the original series of it.
Yeah.
Of course, we're all sitting there like happily reading the manga and watching the show and slowly being like, why is it changing? Why are there Nazis? Like, what is happening?
I think that would be like the one highlight of the original run of the anime, is that it just went in such a crazy direction.
It just didn't. It couldn't. Like, it just went off and did its own thing. I mean, at least it was interesting, but I remember like finishing the movie when the movie was the end of it all, and I was so like, what? I remember
feeling very dissatisfied.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the wrong kind of empty feeling.
Yeah. Where it was like when you finish the manga, it's not that. Like, it was a good ending. Mm-hmm. Which was nice.
Yeah. I felt very complete. Like, complete opposite in terms of like how it resolved and how satisfied I was with it, right? And I think not depressed because they weren't separated because of whatever else was going on.
Super random circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that you really only get from having like one person being the main storyteller. I think Hiromu
Arakawa, I think.
Yeah.
I might be goofing it.
I haven't thought about it in years. But like, yeah, I think when you have like a boardroom of people designing a story, like you probably did for the end of the original anime, it can't be as like tightly knit.
True.
And I think she knew the ending.
Yeah, I think
when
so.
When she was like when she started it, I know that Masashi Kishimoto. So many names I haven't pronounced in like 3 years.
You're fine. You got it.
The guy who wrote Naruto, he knew the end before he ever like created the story. So, of course, it wraps up nicely.
He's gonna be king of the ninjas, right? King of the ninjas.
And then they just were like, let's make Boruto. Woohoo!
Oh boy, yeah.
I'm not following that one, but Naruto I think is a stepping stone in all of our lives. It's good. Naruto was the first thing I ever cried reading.
Really?
Yeah, it was the first thing I ever read, and it made me cry.
What in particular?
It was when Haku. Oh, this is gonna be a spoiler, but it's like the beginning.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
They never think about him again after that. It's fine.
No, no, they totally don't. When Haku and Zabuza die.
Oh yeah.
My sister was mad at me because I cried all over her Shonen Jump. There was like teardrops all over.
Do we have the same sister?
Potentially.
No.
But yeah, no, and I remember reading it and just crying like it was a natural thing, and like I didn't think about it really. And then I realized that like I had just had an emotional reaction from reading something, and that was like one of the first times that had ever happened.
Wow.
So again,
big moment.
Again, comic books are like an important part of my reading developmental emotional self.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why am I crying over like the bad guys?
I know it's a real challenge, right? Because it's like maybe if that's your first experience with it, right? That's like the first time you're thinking critically a little bit about like how you're feeling, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then like sort of morally, they're the villains here, so why do I feel bad, right?
But they're also such good villains.
Oh yeah.
I am definitely when it comes to my actress side, I am one of those like classic, oh my god, I love villains so much because there's no such thing as a villain, and that's fascinating to me. People.
Yeah, well, the first that's not true. That's not true. The first time I was trying to audition for anything, I was kind of bummed out because I was like, I want to do, main character role. I want to be like protagonist or whatever.
I want to be the hero.
I want to be the hero.
I could be my hero of this. I don't know what I'm doing.
You could have finished it. You would have just lean into it. Lean into it. But yeah, like, I was like, that's what I was thinking. And then somebody was like, nah, man, villains are more fun. Do that. And then I haven't done.
Be told.
No, like, yeah, exactly. They're like way more fun. Well, yeah, I ended up getting that like thing anyway because they were like, well, you'd probably be more interested. Like, we could get something really interesting out of you doing this. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I got to do like this weird sort of cross between the Joker and Jafar. Like,
oh, that'd be awesome.
It was cool.
That's so cool.
I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a little small stage thing, but it was like first time I was really performing, and I was like, oh man.
Like it was voice.
No, it was on stage. It was like
okay.
Like a small audition, like
That's
really
amazing.
small production of a thing.
I mean, my first stage role was Captain Hook, so I that was embarrassing as a like tiny child.
So you were Captain Hook?
I auditioned for Wendy.
I
got Captain Hook.
Oh.
I don't know what I did wrong. I think I was just the only kid who could project because I was very loud as a child.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I
can relate. Yeah.
But I think that's true when it comes to like you end up enjoying whatever you get put in, but I totally get the like I want to be the hero and then not being the hero, but then kind of liking it.
It was way more fun being the hero. The hero was whatever.
Was always fun.
Forget
then you
this
get
guy.
To win, usually.
Yeah, but that's
like
not
really
as fun that's not as fun as doing whatever you want, right?
No, I mean, yeah, totally. I think I've enjoyed both. Like I play the hero here and there. Like I mean, Lily is the hero of
that's true.
Kairos, and then although Lily is like weird, I love Lily, but she's like kind of based on me, so it's really odd to play her.
A little bit self-serving, isn't it?
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to be that way. She was originally conceived as a male character, and then we were like, can we make this like a feminist show? And then it just kind of fell that way.
Oh.
Yeah, that was it's interesting.
Production notes. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, no, I think but I've also gotten to play a character who was kind of like a film noir take on Jessica Rabbit, and she was like
interesting.
She was like the bad guy, but she was like a seductress. But that was like super fun to play because you're playing the like I'm getting along with you, I'm really nice, I'm really cool, but secretly I want to steal your drugs. You know?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think I find villains fascinating, but I mean, I think there's this little part of everybody who they want to be the hero, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's one of the reasons I think I stuck with Walking Dead, because while yes, certain chapters were hard to read and upsetting, and things happened, in spite of that, I love Negan. Like, I love Negan. And I love Negan in the same way I love Joffrey. Which is...
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but... the second part. The
like,
first part, yes, I've definitely seen that around, but...
Yeah, it's the kind of thing... It's, like, obviously if I met one of them, it's not... I don't like them. I don't want to be near them. If I could punch them in the face, I would. But it's the kind of thing where
the character, not the actor, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I have complete and absolute respect for both of those actors. I would, like, fall to my knees in front of them. They're both amazing. But, like, I love watching them and knowing it's not real.
Right.
I think it's fascinating to see that kind of disconnect, especially with Negan, because I think Joffrey is like, I mean, Joffrey's just a like emotional little kid who has issues, but Negan knows exactly what he's doing, which is why it's so fascinating. And he has morals. Like, Negan has morals. Despite the fact that he is, I mean, he's not a psychopath, but like, despite the fact that he does such awful things, he has no issue with murder. But at one point, which you haven't gotten to if you haven't been keeping up with it since Bad Times, but at one point a character is almost
Bat Times.
Bad Times.
Did you say Bat Times? You're missing all these opportunities that you're setting up.
Because I'm usually like a pun master, but maybe
I'm not
it's
seeing
the pressure of the interview.
Oh, that's true. I am in kind of a control position here. I can just sit back and make jokes.
There's a point later on when one of Negan's henchmen almost rapes a woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Negan is like, I can't believe you did this. This is awful. Rape is unacceptable. How dare you? Like, you're the scum of the earth, and ends up like killing him because of it. But like, he kills him. He shoves a knife through his throat.
Ooh.
And you're like, do you not see the disconnect? Like, obviously both are awful, awful, awful things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know, I just find that kind of like, he picked his priorities very interesting.
He has a set of rules that he follows.
Yeah.
In order to survive and then also somewhat keep a little bit sane, I guess. Is my lack of experience in diagnosing.
I mean, I'm only like, I'm getting a bachelor's degree. I'm not qualified.
It's true.
But I think that's really cool, and I think that kind of thing is really an interesting thing to explore, and I'm glad that comics and the shows based on comics are able to explore those kinds of things, whereas in a book that might not come across as sane as it does. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
No,
it's one of those things that I always kind of ponder over in my head, and I'm like, I have no idea how to put this into words.
Well, what I like generally about comics, I think, to try to see if I'm understanding this right, is that you're getting to see, you're kind of removing the imagery as a vector, like you're removing that factor when presenting your story. Like, you're not leaving it to their imagination somewhat, they're communicating that, right?
Yeah.
In layout and in art and whatever it is, but you're telling them this is what's happening here as much as you want, and then letting everything else be interpreted, right? Does that kind of help?
Yeah, no, totally. I think that you get a lot more of the writer's intentions when you can, like, I mean, to be cliche, like, see it in the character's eyes, which you can only really do in visual media, which is interesting. And yeah, I guess that's kind of the easiest way to put it.
Makes sense. So you covered a lot of ground here, but I guess to close out, like, I mean, this is super cool, but I don't want to keep you here for too long. What if you had to pick like 3 things that you've, like, mandatory recommendations, like things that it's not even just mandatory reading, I guess.
That I would
3 things
force that upon people.
Yeah, me or anybody else that you're saying like must be read.
Okay.
What would those be? Like 3.
Must be read. That's a. I mean, I feel like it depends, because I don't want to take someone who gets squeamish and be like, read Battle Royale.
Well, just give them the warning. I would say that's fine. Just give them the warning that, hey, this is it's just things that you feel passionate about. We're not talking about necessarily introducing people to new stuff. If that's what you want, then that can be part of the recommendation instructions. Right?
Yeah. Okay. I'd say. I mean, I feel like I'd have to put in the Zelda comics.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I feel like most people have played at least one Zelda game, and I feel like they get so much more out of it. If you play the game and then you read the comic and you play the game again, you'll be like, oh my god, it's a whole new game. This is amazing.
I'm definitely interested in that for sure.
Yeah. As far as other things go, I think.
Something horror?
Yeah, I guess something horror. I mean, honestly, I think everyone should read Battle Royale. To go right back to that, even if you do just read the novel, which the novel is also good. Mm-hmm. The novel is, I believe, the original, or wait,
yes, it is.
Yeah, there was a novel, and then there was a manga, and then there was a movie, and then there was a video game based off that, and then there was a manga. It was really confusing.
There was a game?
I think there was a game, but I think it was like a really awful.
I see.
Like nobody played it, kind of like just run around this island and shoot people game.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're at all interested in like dystopian and like kind of media about taking people who aren't usually violent and putting them into a violent situation, like if you like Hunger Games, you should read Battle Royale. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I was the pissant that was going like, oh yeah, that Hunger Games thing. I read that years ago when it was Battle Royale. Like just ruining.
I found Battle Royale because of Hunger Games.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, okay. I read Hunger Games and then I like Googled if you like Hunger Games, what else should you read? Which was awful. But it led me to that.
Yeah.
Then,
man. I actually had found, to just build on this a little bit. There was like a school, like a college. There was like a school bookstore thing where they had the stuff they were getting rid of.
Yeah.
And then I think like volume 1 of Battle Royale was there. I didn't buy it like a fool because it was like $3. Like I should have bought it.
Oh.
But they had it, and I was like, what the heck is this? You know, like they're just getting rid of this. What is it?
Yeah.
I opened it up and I was like, oh my goodness, like you know. And then the first 5 to 10 pages, it's already crazy. So
yeah,
that was my introduction to the manga, and then I found out about the book and then the movie and all that stuff.
Yeah, always jump on those sales. That's how I got my Legend of Zelda books. They were $2 each, so I got all 10 volumes for $20. And it was like, this is the best day ever.
How many volumes of the Ocarina? You said there's only 2 for that
2.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's one off of most of the games. I got my collection and I haven't updated it a couple of years ago, so there might be more out now. I think I heard they were going to do a Wind Waker one, which I would really like to read because Wind Waker is like one of my favorite games.
How would Breath of the Wild even work?
I don't know. I assume it's too new for them to have made a manga off of it yet, because I assume that I don't know if it's like they take the notes from originally when they were writing the game, or if they just like take the game and they're like, this would be cool if this was what was happening. I don't know.
Maybe.
But, I mean, that would be an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, oh man, now I'm down to like my last one, and that's really nerve-wracking. Okay.
Well, you did manga, you did horror,
and I did manga, I did horror. What else is there? What else is there?
What else is there?
In the world of comics, nothing good. No. I mean, I guess, like, to, like, cheat and use 2, I think everybody should read, like, Death Note and FullMetal Alchemist.
Okay, that's fair.
I feel like that.
If you had to pick one.
Period.
If you had to pick one. Just one.
It's odd because I feel like I prefer FullMetal Alchemist, but I think I'd pick Death Note.
Why is that?
I think Death Note. I don't know. It's hard to. I have a lot of trouble putting things into words, which is a problem because I'm an academic. But
Oh, are you? Is that right?
I mean, I try to be. I think. I mean, the funny thing is, Death Note is now becoming like kind of outdated. Like I rewatched the anime recently, and I was like, "Wow, he's using a flip phone. What is this?"
Yeah.
But I think Death Note has a lot more to say about morality and like humans in power positions, and I think that is kind of really valid to talk about right now.
Yeah,
the way that
I guess so.
The world is like, as much as FullMetal Alchemist explores that, it kind of does it from more of like a fantasy-esque, like, let's talk about like morality on a like almost a larger scale. Doesn't quite make sense to say with Death Note as the opposing thing, but I guess like if I don't want to spoil things. It's hard to talk about like why you should read something without spoiling it a little bit.
I mean, I think generally people understand the basis of Death Note without outright saying the ending, you know? Guy gets a book, write names in it, they die. right?
Yeah. I guess that's kind of why. I mean, you take the idea of murder and you put it down to the most simple form and how easy it could be, and then you explore that, which I think is a little bit more interesting than kind of exploring how to make a philosopher's stone. Just the easiest way I can say without spoiling what FullMetal Alchemist is about.
I mean, there are some real consequences to that.
Oh, yeah.
Also
I mean,
sort of,
but
no, again, I think that maybe the idea is that it's closer to reality.
Closer to
Death Note
reality,
thing is,
and
it's
I think that the characters in Death Note I think they have slightly more interesting arcs. I think that a lot of them change more than like Edward or Alphonse change in FullMetal Alchemist. Well, they both absolutely change and learn a bit. I think that they're both just kind of they're the same but more determined by the end of the show, and maybe or the book and the show now, because they made a decent version. They're both kind of like themselves as determined but slightly resigned by the end, whereas obviously in Death Note everybody just keeps changing and changing and changing, and the consequences of those changes of like it really goes into the consequences of getting cocky or getting literally a god complex or losing it. I mean, there are characters in Death Note who their whole arc is that they get more and more beaten down, and that's why they either become stronger or they become weaker. So I think that that's interesting. But I think everybody should read both.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I just wanted to hear the argument if you had to pick one. But yeah, definitely. No, I agree. I think that they're recommended reading for sure. I'm probably due for a reread on both of those at some point. Yeah,
going back through Death Note recently was really fun, especially because I feel like I'd forgotten things.
Sure, yeah.
And it was also just interesting to watch the anime again because it was translated here in Vancouver where I live, and I've met a lot of the voice actors now, so I was like, oh my gosh,
wow, that's
I know
cool.
You. Which was kind of
wait,
weird.
you've met I'll take a potato chip and eat it?
No, not him. I've met the woman who plays Nier, Kathy Westbrook. She is adorable and wonderful and like the sweetest human in the world.
Awesome.
And like Nier is the greatest little character. And I met the girl who plays Misa, but she doesn't do an awful lot of voice acting recently, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we were like in the same place, and it was cool. But yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah. No.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Hard to recommend. Thanks.
What?
I think that manga and like comics should way more be in like school libraries.
Oh, I think they are. They're definitely in public libraries.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there was like one or two comic books that were probably just like weird little compilations of like DC or Marvel in my school library, but it was like there was like a comic section, and it was like literally comical because it was like 4 books and it was labeled.
Oh boy, you know what was in just I have to say this since we brought it up, but in my middle school library, Mouse is in there.
Okay, but that's
middle
like,
school.
That makes sense. Mouse is fascinating and interesting, and it is one of those ones where again you read it and it's not necessarily for entertainment reasons.
No, it's kind of that. I mean, you're learning a little bit, but then you're also it's that like grim curiosity of like what, like how does this work?
Yeah, right? I recently talked about Mouse in one of my classes in college. We had like a creative writing class, and we talked about different uses of comics and how it's like not all comedy. Which was really interesting. So we talked about Mouse a lot, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this terrified me when I was younger. I didn't enjoy this at all."
No. Yeah. Well, I own it now, so obviously it made an impact on me, right?
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. I think that's one of the things that probably affects my desires to read comics is that I'm more likely to read something that will affect me than something that I'll enjoy. I think I'm way more interested in like emotional and like
just being like completely devastated,
yourself.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's I don't think people give like that kind of media enough credit, and maybe I don't like I think maybe I don't believe in it as much as I'm saying I do. Like I definitely, but like things that make me think and will make me think for months and months to come about an issue or about how like something can affect someone, definitely I think I enjoy more in the long run than reading just like a volume of Yotsuba, which is not to diss Yotsuba. Yotsuba's great, but like I don't know. I think I find it more profound, and I think I enjoy that more than just like something random, some kind of weird comedy, or just like you know, your 25th superhero of the day doing the same thing.
That's fair.
That might have been a weird tangent.
No. I think it's. I mean, you have a point about like searching. Well, I would do this too, is searching for something that would affect you, or wanting to find something that, you know, really either fuels you or just makes you feel a certain way. And then, you know, in between, maybe you'll read some of the lighter things and enjoy that for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, essentially my life with comics has gone from learning to read to trying to understand the universe.
Excellent.
Perfect.
It's a heck of a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks a lot for coming on. This was really awesome, like finding out. Like,
Thanks for
I'm glad
me.
you've been excellent, and I'm so happy that comics could, you know, affect your life for the positive, you know.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're a cool thing, and more people should read them.
I agree.
All the time.